Love you.
I love you.
Okay. See if I can set up my live over here. And this window over here.
Let's play, Mom.
No, what can I go to the store?
Oh, thanks, babe.
No, you need to go
that's
get
cold.
your pants on.
Could you do me a favor and see if my cigarettes are in the truck
Yes.
before you go? And then you rescheduled that?
After the 30th.
Okay. Hopefully we'll make it that long. Let's see. I kind of want to open a Gemini. So that we can have that open. Let me see if I can pick up on this. Good. I guess it won't read it to me. Can you speak out loud, please? How do I play your voice? It works on my phone. Hey, what's going on? We got. Yes, you can use Jimmy Speak Out Loud on your phone. Maybe we will actually. Hey, you got a book. Okay. I am on live.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Make sure you have pants on before you go to the store. That would be great. So, looks like I can't do the speech on here on the computer, just on the phone. So, if we need to ask Gemini something and we want to hear the response, we'll actually use our phone for that, which could be pretty fun. But first, where can I find the details of all the new executive orders? I figured the official White House. Let me copy that link and stick it in here in the chat. See if that works. Oh, look at that. Presidential actions. Let's see if it works. Let's click link presidential actions. You know, I feel like I need to screen record this. Give me just a second here. Ah. Okay. Oh boy. Why are you guys having such an issue in there? Anna, listen to your mother. So, this is the common news knows news, the American way. How are we going to do things today? Well, the good old-fashioned, the American way, which, you know, is God's way. We're going to follow God's plan. So we're just going to take a look at a few things. I really wanted to take a look at the presidential actions, and you can see in the chat I've put the link to this page, so you can actually just click on that and help yourself to all the information you want. I'm recording this as a video of itself while doing a live feed, so that's kind of interesting. We'll see how it goes. Nominated, transmitted to the presidential actions, ending, and I wonder if we can click on each one of these. Wow. So I guess that's what we're going to do, is spend a little bit of time here just going through this. January 22nd, 21st. Looks like, he's just been, Trump has been busy. Praise God that Trump is in office. Are you girls still in there? Maybe they left and went to the store. Hold on a second. Anna. Oh, never mind. So, look at all these executive orders. We'll just go through what we can while we can. These are the presidential actions, and there's the link to go through them. Nominations transmitted to the state, ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity. Illegal discrimination would imply that some illegal discrimination has taken place. And restoring merit-based opportunity, I do look forward to that. There may be some actionable data there. Keeping Americans in aviation, guaranteeing the state's protection against invasion, restoring names that honor American greatness, designating cartels and other organizations as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global terrorists, reforming the federal hiring process and restoring merit to government service, ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing, defending women from gender ideology extremism and restoring biological truth to the federal government. Wow. Establishing and implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency. Thank you, my loving, beautiful doll baby. You're not really going to be in it unless you're in this square right here. Huh? Let's crack a lacquer. Cheers to the American way.
You got it.
We'll crack a cold one and drink to the American way. Man and wife.
All right.
Red Bulls, but hey, it's less frothy. Are you ladies going to the store?
Yeah, here in just a minute.
We're going to break down these executive orders.
Oh,
Hopefully, we still have a country when you get back.
Oh, God. I hope so.
Only one way to find out. Tune in next time. Like and subscribe. So those are the ones. Let's just break these down. Looks like there's a few pages of them. You're rolling out? You're rolling out? Okay. Well, I'm on live, so.
Well, I'll be giving you the kiss on live viewing.
Okay. Love you.
Love you.
Get out of my frame.
Anna, sit behind your dad.
Huggy, kissy. Oh, I love your outfit. You're so cute.
Thanks.
Give me a hug and kiss. Watch out for those drinks.
Let me tell you what
I
I
love you.
do now.
Oh, that's almost Russian. Nice moves.
All right.
You ladies have fun. I'll see you in a little bit, okay?
Okay.
I love you.
Mom, why are we
Love you.
walking backwards?
I love you so much.
There's not much.
Adios, amigos.
Adios, amigos.
Okay, nominations transmitted to the Senate. For immediate release, January 22nd, 2025, nominations sent to the Senate. Oh, here's the list of nominations sent to, oh, that's wonderful. Michael Boren of Idaho to be Undersecretary of Agricultural, Natural Resources and Environment. Vice Homer L. Wilkes resigned. Stephen Bradbury of Virginia to the Deputy Secretary of Transportation. Vice Polly Ellen Trottenberg resigned. William Briggs of Texas to be Deputy Administrator of the Small Business Administration. Vice Dilawar Suyed resigned. James Danley of Tennessee to be Deputy Secretary of Energy. Vice David Turk resigned. Richard Fortas of Missouri to be Undersecretary of Agriculture, the Farm Production and Conservation. Vice Robert Farrell Bonney resigned. David Futau of Virginia to be Deputy Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Vice Janet Garvin McCabe. Doesn't say what happened there. Kenneth Keyes of Virginia to be an Assistant Secretary of the Treasury. Vice Lily Lawrence Batchelder. Mike, these are just the nominations. Some of those are interesting. You guys can kind of see these. I guess if you're on my live, you can't see these. Federal Housing Finance, Chief Counsel for Advocacy, Small Business Administration. Got somebody new in there. Department Secretary of Education, Penny Schwinn of Tennessee, will be the Deputy Secretary of Education. The Vice Cynthia Manette Martin resigned. Let's see. Deputy Secretary of the Interior, Vice Tommy P. Boudreaux, resigned. Catherine McGregor of Florida to be the Deputy Secretary of the Interior. Paul Lawrence of Virginia to be the Deputy Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Vice Tanya J. Bradsher resigned. So that's pretty neat. Those are the nominations sent to the Senate. Ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity. I'm definitely interested in this, so let's see what it says. By the authority vested in me as President of the Constitution of the Laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1. Purpose. Long-standing federal civil rights laws protect individual Americans from discrimination based on race, color, sex, religion, or national origin. These civil rights protections serve as a bedrock supporting equality of opportunity for all Americans. As president, I have a solemn duty to ensure that these laws are enforced for the benefit of all Americans. Yet today, roughly 60 years after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, critical and influential institutions of American society, including the federal government, major corporations, financial institutions, the medical industry, large commercial airlines, law enforcement agencies, and institutions of higher education, have adopted and actively used dangerous, demeaning, immoral race and sex-based preferences under the guise of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion, or diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility that can violate the civil rights laws of this nation. Illegal DEI and DEIA policies not only violate the text and spirit of our long-standing federal civil rights laws, they also undermine our national unity as they deny, discredit, and undermine the traditional American values of hard work, excellence, and individual achievement in favor of an unlawful, corrosive, and pernicious identity-based spoils system. Hardworking Americans who deserve a shot at the American dream should not be stigmatized, demeaned, or shut out of opportunities because of their race or sex. These illegal DEI and DEIA policies also threaten the safety to American men, women, and children across the nation by diminishing the importance of individual merit, aptitude, hard work, and determination when selecting people for jobs and services in key sectors of American society, including all levels of government and the medical, aviation, and law enforcement communities. Yet in case after tragic case, the American people have witnessed firsthand the disastrous consequences of illegal, pernicious discrimination that has prioritized how people were born instead of what they were capable of doing. The federal government is charged with enforcing our civil rights laws. I'm glad to read that. The purpose of this order is to ensure that it does so by ending illegal preferences and discrimination. Well, I guess that's good to end it. It would be nice to see if we could get some actual compensation for it. But let it be God's will. Section 2, policy. It is the policy of the United States to protect the civil rights of all Americans and to promote individual initiative, excellence, and hard work. I therefore order all executive departments and agencies to terminate all discriminatory and illegal preferences, mandates, policies, programs, activities, guidance, regulations, enforcement actions, consent orders, and requirements. I further order all agencies to enforce our long-standing civil rights laws. Order all agencies, that would include EEOC and OSHA and the Department of Justice, I further order all agencies to enforce our long-standing civil rights laws, which means they should now be able to be held liable if they don't, because the executive order says they have to. And to combat illegal private sector DEI preferences, mandates, policies, programs, and activities. Let's see. Let's read that again, because I think that we're including the private businesses and not just government agencies here. I further order all agencies to enforce our long-standing civil rights laws and to combat illegal private sector DEI preferences, mandates, policies, programs, and activities, which would include things like mandatory DEI training, like I had at Comcast, which I'd like to add does receive government grants. And so I love that this actually addresses everybody, every American. That's the American way, and that's how it should be. Section 3, terminating illegal discrimination in the federal government. The following executive actions are hereby revoked. Executive Order 12898 on February 11th, 1994, federal actions to address environmental justice in minority populations and low-income populations. Executive Order 13583 of August 18th, 2011, establishing a coordinated government-wide initiative to promote diversity and inclusion in the federal workplace. A government-wide initiative. When was that? In 2011. To promote diversity and inclusion in the federal workplace. Executive Order 13672 of July 21st, 2014, further amends to Executive Order 11478, equal employment opportunity in the federal government, and Executive Order 11246, equal employment opportunity. And the Presidential Memorandum on October 5th, 2016, promoting diversity and inclusion in the national security workforce. The federal contracting process shall be streamlined to enhance speed and efficiency, reduce costs, and require federal contractors and subcontractors to comply with our civil rights laws accordingly. That's awesome. Executive Order 11246 of September 24th, 1965, equal employment opportunity, is hereby revoked. For 90 days from the date of this order, federal contractors may continue to comply with the regulatory scheme in effect on January 20, 2025. The Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs within the Department of Labor shall immediately cease promoting diversity. A. B. Holding federal contractors and subcontractors responsible for taking affirmative action. And C. Allowing or encouraging federal contractors and subcontractors to engage in workforce balancing based on race, color, sex, sexual preference, religion, or national origin, which is really great. In accordance with Executive Order 13279 of December 12th, 2002, equal protection of the laws for faith-based and community organizations, the employment, procurement, and contracting practices of federal contractors and subcontractors shall not consider race, color, sex, sexual preference, religion, or national origin in ways that violate the nation's civil rights laws. Those are really important. We're really kind of, making a point to acknowledge the civil rights of Americans, and that, that's the American way. The head of each agency shall include in every contract or grant award a term requiring the contractual counterparty to grant recipient to agree that its compliance in all respects with all applicable federal anti-discrimination laws is material to the government's payment decisions for the purposes of Section 3729 B4 of Title 31 United States Code. And B, a term requiring such counterparty or recipient to certify that it does not operate any programs promoting DEI that violate any applicable federal anti-discrimination laws. See, they're not really saying that diversity and equity and inclusion, the terms themselves, are bad. They're just saying, you can't do it in a way that's discriminatory, which is kind of the point. The Director of the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, with the assistance of the Attorney General as requested, shall review and revise as appropriate all government-wide processes, directives, and guidance, excise references to DEI and DEIA principles under whatever name they may appear from federal acquisition, contracting, grants, and financial assistance procedures to streamline those procedures, improve speed and efficiency, lower costs, and comply with all civil rights laws, and terminate all diversity, quote, equity, quote, equitable decision-making, quote, equitable deployment of financial and technical assistance, quote, advancing equity, quote unquote, and like mandates, requirements, programs, or activities as appropriate. Section 4, encouraging the private sector to end illegal DEI discrimination and preferences. A, the heads of all agencies, with the assistance of the Attorney General, shall take the appropriate action with respect to the operations of their agencies to advance in the private sector the policy of individual initiative, excellence, and hard work identified in Section 2 of this order. To further inform and advise me that my administration may formulate appropriate and effective civil rights policy, the Attorney General, within 120 days of this order, in consultation with the heads of relevant agencies and in coordination with the Director of OMB, shall submit a report to the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy containing recommendations for enforcing federal civil rights laws and taking other appropriate measures to encourage the private sector to end illegal discrimination and preferences, including DEI. The report shall contain a proposed strategic enforcement plan identifying key sectors of concern within each agency's jurisdiction, the most egregious and discriminatory DEI practitioners in each sector of concern, and 3, a plan of specific steps or measures to enter DEI programs or principles, whether specifically denominated DEI, quote unquote, or otherwise, that constitute illegal discrimination or preferences. As part of this plan, each agency shall identify up to 9 potential civil compliance investigations of publicly traded corporations, large nonprofit corporations and associations, foundations with assets of $500 million or more, state and local bar and medical associations, and institutions of higher education with endowments over $1 billion. Other strategies to encourage the private sector to end DEI discrimination and preferences and comply with all federal civil rights laws. Litigation that would be potentially appropriate for federal lawsuits, intervention, or statements of interest, and potential regulatory action and sub-regulatory guidance. Section 5, other actions. Within 120 days of this order, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Education shall jointly issue guidance to all state and local educational agencies that receive federal funds, as well as all institutions of higher education that receive federal grants or participate in the Federal Student Loan Assistance Program under Title IV of the Higher Education Act 20 USC 1070, regarding the measures and practices required to comply with students for fair admissions. President and Fellows of Harvard College, 600 U.S. 181 of 2023. Section 6, severability. If any provision of this order or the application of any provision to any person or circumstance is held to be invalid, the remainder of this order and the application of its provisions to any other persons or circumstances shall not be affected thereby. Where's my glasses? Section 7, scope. This order does not apply to lawful federal or private sector. This order does not apply to lawful federal or private sector employment and contracting preferences for veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces or persons protected by the Randolph-Shepard Act, 20 U.S.C. 107. This order does not prevent state or local governments, federal contractors, or federally funded state and local educational agencies or institutions of higher education from engaging in First Amendment protected speech, which I would say would include whistleblowers' protections. This order does not prohibit persons teaching at a federally funded institution of higher education as part of a larger course of academic instructions for advocating for, endorsing, or promoting the unlawful employment or contracting practices prohibited by this order. Section 8, the general provisions, nothing in this order shall be construed to impair the otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department, agency, or the head thereof, or the functions of the Director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit substantive or procedural at law, or in equity by any part against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. Signed, the White House, January 21st, 2025. I think that's pretty awesome. Wow. For ending illegal discrimination and restore merit-based opportunity. I think that was that was pretty intense for the first section. I'm going to have to say, let's jump on into keeping Americans safe in aviation. January 21st, 2025. Every day, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, within the U.S. Department of Transportation oversees safety for more than 45,000 flights and 2.9 million airline passengers. These Americans trust the FAA's public servants with their lives, and it is therefore imperative that they maintain a commitment to excellence and efficiency. During the prior administration, however, the FAA betrayed its mission by elevating dangerous discrimination over excellence. For example, prior to my inauguration, the FAA Diversity and Inclusion website revealed that the prior administration sought to specifically recruit and hire individuals with serious infirmities that could impact the execution of their essential life-saving duties. Illegal and discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) hiring, including on the basis of race, sex, disability, or any other criteria other than the safety of airline passengers and overall job excellence, competency, and qualification, harms all Americans who deserve to fly with confidence. It also penalizes hardworking Americans who want to serve in the FAA but are unable to do so as they lack a requisite disability or skin color. FAA employees must hold the qualifications and have the ability to perform their jobs to the highest possible standard of excellence. I think that's a very, obvious point there. Kind of goes without saying. I hereby order the Secretary of Transportation and the Federal Aviation Administration to immediately return to non-discriminatory merit-based hiring as required by law. Also, so-called DEI initiatives, including all dangerous preferencing policies or practices, shall immediately be rescinded in favor of hiring, promoting, and otherwise treating employees on the basis of individual capability, competence, achievement, and dedication. The Secretary of Transportation and the Federal Aviation Administration shall review the past performance and performance standards of all individuals in critical safety positions and take all appropriate action to ensure that any individual who fails or has failed to demonstrate requisite capability is replaced by a high capability individual that will ensure top-notch air safety and efficiency. And that's really self-explanatory, and I think that's a wonderful thing. Keeping Americans safe in aviation. Okay, we're down to the fourth one. We're just going to roll through these and get whatever we can out of them. Guaranteeing the state's protection against invasion. This is something that I've kind of been worried about for a while. It's like, why aren't we? Let me turn this light on. Oh, I'm in the bedroom today. I'm not really in the office. Oh, heck. Try to shed some light in here. Maybe somebody wants to call in and be on the show. What was I saying? Oh, proclamation, states protect invasion. Yeah, so that's kind of a big thing. Like, I don't know that we really all agree to all the, stuff that's been going on in our country. You want me to kind of sacrifice some of my independent liberties and civil rights in exchange for what? For what? For you to, create war all over the place? So I'm not really into that whole thing. And so I'm so glad that these executive orders came out. So glad that we got a new president who believes in God. And so, yeah, let's check this one out. By the President of the United States of America, a proclamation. By the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, I hereby proclaim an essential feature of any sovereign nation is the existence of territorial boundaries and the inherent authority to decide who and what may cross those boundaries. The Supreme Court of the United States has ascribed this power as a fundamental act of sovereignty, which stems not alone from legislative power, but is inherent in the executive power to control the foreign affairs of the nation. U.S. Knopf vs. Shaughnessy, 338, U.S. 537, 542, in 1950. The Supreme Court has recognized, this is from the president, so I should talk like him. The Supreme Court has recognized the inherent right and duty of the executive. I can't do it very good, but that's pretty funny. The Supreme Court has recognized the inherent right and duty of the executive branch to defend our national sovereignty, stating that when Congress prescribes a procedure concerning the admissibility of aliens, it is not dealing alone with a legislative power. It is implementing an inherent executive power. And so that's interesting. Basically, the president's saying, hey, if Congress is doing this, they're not really supposed to be doing it. This is supposed to be left to the executive branch. The Congress has, in establishing an uniform rule of naturalization, created a complex and comprehensive federal scheme in the Immigration of Nationality Act to control the entry and exit of people and goods across the border of the United States. So I think he's making the point here that, by letting people have citizenship by being born here, they're not going through the proper channels. They took that as an act of Congress to make that a law, when really they didn't have that power. That was those rules and regulations and enforcement lie within the executive branch. Very, very interesting. Wouldn't be legislative branch. Interesting. It's really interesting. So, we're really going to start pulling on these different branches of government. Now, it's all kind of coming back full circle as to why we have the different branches in the first place. Let's see. Prospective immigrants who use the visa system are screened for such health, safety, and security concerns while outside of the United States and are not permitted to enter the United States until they establish that they are eligible to be admitted as a matter of law and should be admitted as a matter of discretion. So we should be choosy about who we let in here is basically what it's saying. And that how we choose to let people in here is determined by the executive branch, not the legislative branch. But screening under those provisions of the INA can be wholly ineffective in the border environment where access to necessary information is limited for aliens who have traveled from countries around the world to enter the United States illegally, or when the system is overwhelmed, leading to the unauthorized entry of innumerable illegal aliens into the United States. Due to the significant information gaps, particularly in the border environment and processing times, federal officials do not have the ability to verify with certainty the criminal record or national security risks associated with the illegal entry of every alien at the southern border, as required by Section 212A 2 through 3 of the INA, 8 U.S.C. 1182A 2 through 3. Nor do aliens who illegally cross the southern border readily provide comprehensive background information from their home countries to federal law enforcement officials. We don't know where they're coming from or where they're going or what their plans are. Sounds like that's going to change. The public safety and national security risks in such an environment are heightened by the presence of and control of territory by international cartels and other transnational criminal organizations. On the other side of the on the other side of the southern border, as well as terrorists and other malign actors who intend to harm the U.S. and the American people. And the risks associated with these issues are greatly exacerbated when the number of aliens illegally crossing the southern border increases to levels that prevent actual operational control of the border. The same is true for public health, where the federal government currently lacks an effective operational capability to screen all illegal aliens crossing the southern border for communicable diseases of public health concern, as required by Section 212A 1 of the INA, 8 U.S.C. 1182A, Section 1. Effectively, no aliens who illegally enter the United States provide federal officials at the southern border with their comprehensive health information, as a lawful immigrant would. As a result, innumerable aliens potentially carrying communicable diseases of public health significance illegally cross the southern border and enter communities across the United States. They're basically saying they're supposed to be given their health history. We don't know where they're coming from or what they're doing. The Congress has just kind of made a new policy, just kind of lets them all in. They're not paying attention to what the fact the executive branch is actually put into law to protect against these agencies, over the last 4 years, at least 8 million illegal aliens were encountered along the southern border of the United States. And countless millions, and by the way, one of the things they were saying was basically, so who knows what they're bringing in here, disease-wise. Over the last 4 years, at least 8 million illegal aliens were encountered along the southern border of the United States, and countless millions more evaded detection and illegally entered the United States. The sheer number of aliens entering the United States has overwhelmed the system and rendered many of the INA's provisions ineffective, including those previously described that are intended to prevent aliens posing threats to public health, safety, and national security from entering the United States. As a result, millions of aliens who potentially pose significant threats to health, safety, and national security have moved into communities nationwide. And that's why you started seeing all these bad things happen by cartels and all these people. That's why Trump's doing something about it. This ongoing influx of illegal aliens across the southern border of the United States has placed significant costs and constraints upon the states, which have collectively spent billions of dollars in providing medical care and related human services, and have spent considerable amounts of increased law enforcement costs associated with the presence of these illegal aliens within their boundaries. In joining the Union, the states agreed to surrender much of their sovereignty and join the Union in exchange for the federal government's promise in Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution to protect each of the states against invasion. Ooh, I like how they're using that, which is a great point. The federal government is supposed to protect each state from invasion of the immigration and protecting the borders. I have determined that the current state of the southern border reveals that the federal government has failed in fulfilling this obligation to the states, and hereby declare that an invasion is ongoing at the southern border, which requires the federal government to take measures to fulfill its obligation to the states. Good for you, Trump. The INA provides the president, he's acknowledging that the federal government hasn't done its job by letting all these immigrants into all these states. It's overwhelmed the states and their resources. And, that's one of the agreements between the governed and the governed. The INA provides the president with certain emergency tools. For example, it states that whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or of any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose or the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem to be appropriate. 8 U.S.C. 1182 F. This statute exudes deference to the president in every clause. Trump versus Hawaii, 585 U.S. 667, 684, 2018. Further, the INA renders it unlawful for any alien to depart from, or enter, or attempt to depart from, or enter the United States except under such reasonable rules, regulations, and orders, and subject to such limitations and exceptions as the president may prescribe. 8 U.S.C. 1185 A, Section 1. Historically, presidents hold on just 1 second. Hold that thought. Historically, presidents have used these statutory authorities to deny entry of designated classes and categories of aliens into the United States through ports of entry. But if the president has the power to deny entry of any alien into the United States and to impose any restrictions as he may deem appropriate, this authority necessarily includes the right to deny the physical entry of aliens into the United States and impose restrictions on access to portions of the immigration system, particularly when the number of aliens illegally crossing the southern border prevents the federal government from obtaining operational control of the border. Which makes sense. The INA does not, however, occupy the federal government's field of authority to protect the sovereignty of the United States, particularly in times of emergency, when entire provisions of the INA are rendered ineffective by operational constraints, such as when there is an ongoing invasion into the states. The president's inherent powers to control the borders of the United States, including those deriving from his authority to control the foreign affairs of the United States, necessarily include the ability to prevent the physical entry of aliens involved in an invasion into the United States and to rapidly repatriate them to an alternative location. Only through such measures can the president guarantee the right of each state to be protected against invasion. Basically saying this is what we're going to have to do in order for the government to be able to do their job. By the power vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, I have determined that the current situation at the southern border qualifies as an invasion under Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution of the United States. Accordingly, I am issuing the proclamation based on my express and inherent powers in Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States and in faithful execution of the immigration laws passed by the Congress, and suspending the physical entry of aliens involved in any invasion into the United States across the southern border until I determine that the invasion has concluded. Wow, that's awesome. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including Sections 212F and 215A of the INA, 8 U.S.C. 1182, Section F, and 1185, Section A, and Section 301 of Title III, the United States Code, hereby direct as follows. Section 1, Suspension of Entry. I hereby proclaim, pursuant to Sections 212F and 215A of the INA 8 U.S.C. 1182F and 1185A, that the entry into the United States on or after the date of this order of aliens engaged in the invasion across the southern border is detrimental to the interests of the United States. I therefore direct that entry into the United States of such aliens be suspended until I issue a finding that the invasion at the southern border has ceased. Section 2. Imposition of restrictions on entry for aliens invading the United States. I hereby proclaim, pursuant to Sections 212F and 215A of the INA 8 U.S.C. 1182F and 1185A, that aliens engaged in the invasion across the southern border of the United States on or after the date of this proclamation are restricted from invoking provisions of the INA that would permit their continued presence in the United States, including but not limited to Section 208 of the INA 8 U.S.C. 1158, until I issue a finding that the invasion at the southern border has ceased. Section 3. Suspension and restriction on entry for aliens posing public health safety or national security risks. I hereby proclaim, pursuant to those sections, that the entry in the United States on or after the date of this order of any alien who fails, before entering into the United States, to provide federal officials with sufficient medical information, medical records, basically, and background, you basically won't be able to get in here without that. So, if you want to come here, you want to immigrate here, you better make sure you got your health papers. Show that you ain't got no crazy stuff coming with you. Which, there's a lot of refugees and things like that. I don't know how that's going to roll out, but sounds interesting. I like that Trump takes action. That's basically what I'm doing. I'm trying to take action. He's putting wheels to his faith. Got to respect that. Constitutional suspension of physical entry. Under the authorities provided to me under Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States, including my control over foreign affairs, and to effectuate the guarantee of protection against invasion required by Article 4, Section 4, I hereby suspend the physical entry of any alien engaged in the invasion across the southern border of the United States and direct the Secretary of Homeland Security in coordination with the Secretary of State and the Attorney General to take appropriate actions as may be necessary to achieve the objectives of this proclamation until I issue a finding that the invasion at the southern border has ceased. Operational actions to repel the invasion. The Secretary of Homeland Security, in coordination with the Secretary of State and the Attorney General, shall take all appropriate action to repel, repatriate, or remove any alien engaged in the invasion across the southern border of the United States on or after the date of this order, whether as an exercise of the suspension power in those sections or as an exercise of my delegated authority under the Constitution of the United States, until it's done. Nothing in this proclamation shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof, the functions of the Director of Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. This proclamation shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. This proclamation is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit substantive or procedural enforceable at law or in equity by any part against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. Wow. In witness whereof I hereby hereunto set my hand this 20th day of January in the year of our Lord 2025, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 249th. Interesting. Okay. Somebody's on here still. Who's watching this? Whoever's watching this, let me know who you are, because it shows me you're watching. It just doesn't show me who you are that's watching. Let's see. Keeping America safe in aviation against invasion. So they're cracking down on that. Restoring names that honor American greatness. That's pretty awesome. Restoring names that honor American greatness. Executive Order, January 20th, 2025. I get to talking and I can't even smoke. By the authority vested in me as President of the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, Purpose and Policy. It is in the national interest to promote the extraordinary heritage of our nation. Bonnie, it's me. Oh, all right. I'm glad that somebody's watching this. I'm actually creating small clips of this with my screen recorder as I go along, so it's not one big giant chop. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this is pretty cool information. So I'm glad somebody is watching and following along. And also, like I mentioned, that link is there. You can click on that link and follow along if you really want to. That's what I'm reading from, is from the White House and from, the president himself. Let's see. The purpose and policy. It is in the national interest to promote the extraordinary. Okay, we read that. We started to read that. Nation and ensure future generations. Just read this again. Section 1. Yeah, it is great info. Purpose and policy. It is in the national interest to promote the extraordinary heritage of our nation and ensure future generations of American citizens celebrate the legacy of our American heroes. The naming of our national treasures, including breathtaking natural wonders and historic works of art, should honor the contributions of visionary and patriotic Americans in our nation's rich past. Section 2, which I haven't shared this out to anybody, so if you want to share it out, you can. I'll probably focus on breaking down the clips later to share out in smaller clips, so it's not one big upload. But I figured, why not do the live video for it? So, this is a first for me too. So, just figured I'd see how it goes. Section 2, appointments to the U.S. Board of Geographic Names. Within 7 days of the date of this order, each agency head with authority to appoint members to the Board of Geographic Names, pursuant to 43 U.S.C. 364A, shall review their respective appointees. Oh, right on. Yeah, the nominations were for Senate were there up in the beginning, which is pretty cool. And thank you for the share. Shall review their prospective appointees and consider replacing those appointees in accordance with applicable law. And who is that with? Okay. The Secretary of the Interior shall review and consider additional appointments to the board to assist in fulfilling all aspects of this order subject to applicable laws. With respect to all applications for naming and renaming submitted to the newly constituted board, the board shall advance the policy establishment in Section 1 of this order to honor the contributions of visionary and patriotic Americans, and may update its principles, policies, and procedures as needed to achieve this policy. Where congressional action is required to establish a renaming in public law following board approval on renaming, the board shall provide guidance to all relevant federal agencies to use the board-approved name in the interim in federal documents and achieve consistency across the federal government. This is real interesting. So bringing up the renaming of some stuff as follows. Section 3, renaming of Mount McKinley. President William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States, heroically led our nation to victory in the Spanish-American War. Under his leadership, the United States enjoyed rapid economic growth and prosperity, including an expansion of territorial gains for the nation. President McKinley championed tariffs to protect U.S. manufacturing, boost domestic production, and drive U.S. industrialization and global reach to new heights. He was tragically assassinated in an attack on our nation's values and our success. Wow. Man, I didn't know that. and he should be honored for his steadfast commitment to American greatness. Nice work, Trump. I really like this. In 1917, the country officially honored President McKinley through the naming of North America's highest peak. Yet, after nearly a century, President Obama's administration in 2015 stripped the McKinley name from federal nomenclature, an affront to President McKinley's life. An affront. Wow. His achievements and his sacrifice. Yeah, that's some Bolshevik. I'm glad. That's crazy. Why would anybody do that? Because they had this agenda, man, this narrative. This order honors President McKinley for giving his life for our great nation and dutifully recognizes his historic legacy of protecting America's interests and generating enormous wealth for all Americans, which is exactly what Trump is trying to do, is take this place back to a place which is what we're calling now the golden age, people. B, within 30 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of the Interior shall, consistent with 43 U.S.C. 364 through 364F, reinstate the name Mount McKinley. The Secretary shall subsequently update the Geographic Names Information System, the GNIS, to reflect the renaming and reinstatement of Mount McKinley. The national park area surrounding Mount McKinley shall retain the name Denali National Park and Preserve. The Secretary of Interior shall work with Alaska Native entities and state and local organizations to adopt names for landmarks to honor the history and culture of the Alaskan people. The Gulf of America. Wow, man, that's pretty cool to see this in writing in executive orders for myself. What do we got here? What is this? A book for? How to become an audiobook narrator? Why don't you just tell me what you're talking about on the screen while I'm reading, Miss Bonnie? Or you can call me. But I want to get through this because I'm recording these. Audiobook? Oh, I think I kind of know what you're talking about. I kind of have thought about doing audiobooks where you could just record this and turn it into an audiobook. Somebody could read it or whatever. I think that's kind of what you're talking about, which I have thought about. That's why I'm kind of making the clips. When you start with the clips, while I'm recording the video, I'm actually recording the audio too. So I can actually use that later and take that out of the video clips and turn it into an audio file. And then I could make that, get paid to read books. Yeah, really? I don't know if anybody would want to hear the sound of my voice, but maybe some people, everybody likes a different sound. That's so funny. I have thought about it, but is that what that link was that you sent me? I don't know how to get into that. Well, that's cool. Yeah, and you can do all that. I am tech savvy with all that. I can use my editing software. I can pull that out. Either turn it into a podcast. I would read somebody a book. What I want to do, I actually wouldn't mind doing an audio recording of The Art of the Deal or whatever if I ever get that book. I would love to do that. The Pick. What are you talking about? Oh, it gives you the URL. Yeah, that's cool. Well, let me get back to this. The Gulf of America, man. And I will check that out, definitely. If it's something that I can make money doing, I'll be on there. Solid. Making money. Section 4. The Gulf of America. The area formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico has long been an integral asset to our once burgeoning nation. However you say that. Yes. Definitely need financial avenues because I am broke and I don't know how I'm going to make it. Hopefully they pay quick. That's so funny. The faster you read, the faster you get paid. Blah, 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 blah. I'll do it. Gulf of America. Yes, this is really cool. I love that we're really getting the information on this. The Gulf was a crucial artery. Let's see. Hold on. The area formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico has long been an integral asset to our once burgeoning nation, whatever that word is, and has remained an indelible part of America. The Gulf was a crucial artery for the America's early trade and global commerce. It is the largest gulf in the world, and the United States coastline along this remarkable body of water spans over 1,700 miles and contains nearly 160 million acres. Wow. Its natural resources and wildlife remain central to America's economy today. The bountiful geology of this basin has made it one of the most prodigious oil and gas regions in the world, providing roughly 14% of our nation's crude oil production and an abundance of natural gas, and consistently driving new and innovative technologies that have allowed us to tap into some of the deepest and richest oil reservoirs in the world. You'll be at the doctor's appointment. We'll still be here. Good luck with your doctor's appointment. We'll see you, Bonnie. Let's see. And then you can always go back through here and catch up on each section. That's why I'm going to end up breaking them down into separate clips. Let's see. Crude oil. The Gulf is also home to vibrant American fisheries, teeming with snapper, shrimp, grouper, stone crab, and other species, and it is recognized as one of the most productive fisheries in the world, with the second largest volume of commercial fishing landings by region in the nation, contributing millions of dollars to local American economies. The Gulf is also a favorite destination for American tourism and recreation activities. Further, the Gulf is a vital region for the multi-billion-dollar U.S. maritime industry, providing some of the largest and most impressive ports in the world. The Gulf will continue to play a pivotal role in shaping America's future and the global economy, and in recognition of this flourishing economic resource and its critical importance to our nation's economy and its people, I am directing that it officially be renamed the Gulf of America. Wow. The Gulf of America. Yeah. America first. Yes. That is awesome. America. The American way. That's why we're doing this the American way. The American way is to stand up to bullies. The American way is to do the right thing from the beginning, in the first place, to learn from our mistakes, to make the world a better place. The Gulf of America, people, as such, within 30 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of the Interior. Just imagine our grandkids will grow up, and they will see that on the maps as Gulf of America from now on. They won't see it as the Gulf of Mexico in history and textbooks. They're going to see the Gulf of America. Man, as such, within 30 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of the Interior shall, consistent with 43 U.S.C. 364 through 364F, take all appropriate actions to rename as the quote-unquote Gulf of America, the U.S. continental shelf area bounded on the northeast, north, and northwest by the states of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida, and extending to the seaward boundary with Mexico and Cuba in the area formerly named as the Gulf of Mexico. The Secretary shall subsequently update the GNIS to reflect the renaming of the Gulf and remove all references to the Gulf of Mexico from the GNIS consistent with applicable law. Yeah, baby, the Gulf of America. And we're going to take out all the references to the Gulf of Mexico. It's good. That's like rewriting history. That's pretty good. Getting salad stuff. What kind of mushrooms do you want on them? No, my wife's asking me about shopping. It's not really the mushrooms that matters. I'll get them next time. Don't worry about it, my love. Thank you very much. I love you. Be safe. Let's see. Where was I? Boundaries here. Reflect its renaming. The board shall provide guidance to ensure all federal references of the Gulf of America, including on agency maps, contracts, and other documents and communications, shall reflect its renaming. Yes, that is great. Section 5, additional action. The Secretary of Interior may solicit public and intergovernmental input regarding additional patriots to honor, particularly in light of America's semi-quincentennial celebration. What a word. And shall recommend action to me through the assistance of the President for domestic policy. Section 6, general provisions. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency, or the head thereof, the functions of the Director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, and legislative proposals. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. The White House, January 20th, 2025. How awesome is that? That was very well written. And I just have to say, wow. Not only did it cover McKinley in there, but it covered what you call it. Let me see if I can share this. Share it to X. The American Way. Let's see, I'll share it to my Facebook. Live the American way. Oh man, I love that. We'll share that, and then people can. Common sense knows news. Haha. That's pretty awesome. Let's get back to our stream. And here we are. So, restoring names that honor. Okay, so next section, designating cartels and other organizations as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global terrorists. So I think a lot of people have kind of, this is kind of a sore subject for a lot of people that have had personal reasons why, they find that nobody's been doing anything about these cartels. Executive orders, January 20th, 2025. Designating cartels and other organizations as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global terrorists by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including the Immigration and Nationality Act, INA. Oh, I was wondering what that was. 8 U.S.C. 1101, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, 50 U.S.C. 1701. It is hereby ordered. Section 1, Purpose. This order creates a process by which certain international cartels, and other organizations will be designated as foreign terrorist organizations. Consistent with Section 219 of the INA, 8 U.S.C. 1189, or specially designated global terrorists, consistent with IEEPA and Executive Order 13224 of September 23, 2001, blocking property and prohibiting transactions with persons who commit, threaten to commit, or support terrorism. As amended. A. International cartels constitute a national security threat beyond that posed by traditional organized crime, with activities encompassing convergence between themselves and a range of extra-hemispheric actors, from designated terror organizations to antagonistic foreign governments. Man, this is getting wordy, but I think they're really trying to crack down on this. Complex adaptive systems, characteristic of entities engaged in insurgency and asymmetric warfare. I don't even know what asymmetric warfare is, unless I don't even know what that means. Infiltration into foreign government across the Western Hemisphere. The cartels have engaged in a campaign of violence and terror throughout the Western Hemisphere that has not only destabilized countries with significant importance for our national interests, but also flooded the United States with deadly drugs, violent criminals, and vicious gangs. The cartels functionally control, through a campaign of assassination, terror, rape, and brute force, nearly all illegal traffic across the southern border of the United States. Wow. That's crazy. In certain portions of Mexico, they function as quasi-governmental entities controlling nearly all aspects of society. The cartel's activities threaten the safety of the American people, the scrutiny of the United States, and the stability of the international order in the Western Hemisphere. Their activities, proximity to, and incursions into the physical territory of the United States pose an unacceptable national security risk to the United States. Other transnational organizations such as Tren de Aragua and La Mara Salvatrucha pose similar threats to the United States. Their campaigns of violence and terror in the United States and internationally are extraordinarily violent, vicious, and similarly threaten the stability of the international order in the Western Hemisphere. C. The cartels and other transnational organizations such as TDA and MS-13 operate both within and outside the United States. They present an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States. I hereby declare a national emergency under IEEPA to deal with those threats. Section 2, Policy. It is the policy of the United States to ensure the total elimination of these organizations' presence in the United States and their ability to threaten the territory, safety, and security of the United States through their extraterritorial command and control structures, thereby protecting the American people and the territorial integrity of the United States. Section 3, Implementation. Within 14 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of State shall take all appropriate action in consultation with the Secretary of the Treasury and the Attorney General, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and the Director of National Intelligence to make a recommendation regarding the designation of any cartel or other organization described in Section 1 of this order as a foreign terrorist organization consistent with 8 U.S.C. 1189, and or a specially designated global terrorist consistent with 50 U.S.C. 1702 and Executive Order 13224. B. Within 14 days of the date of this order, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall take appropriate action in consultation with the Secretary of State to make operational preparations regarding the implementation of any decision I make to invoke the Alien Enemies Act, 50 U.S.C. 21, in relation to the existence of any qualifying invasion or predatory incursion against the territory of the United States by a qualifying actor, and to prepare such facilities as necessary to expedite the removal of those who may be designated under this order. Section 4, General Provisions. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof. Or the OMB. This order is not intended to waive anybody's rights. The White House. That's that one right there. Designating cartels and other foreign terrorist organizations. They really want to crack down on that. And I really want them to, too. Let's see. Reforming the federal hiring process. Restoring merit to government service. Wow. Okay. Better take a drink. Reforming the federal hiring process and restoring merit to government service. Well, that sounds refreshing, doesn't it? By the authority vested in me as President of the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including sections 3301, 3302, and 7511 of Title V, the United States Code is hereby ordered. Section 1, Policy. American citizens deserve an excellent and efficient federal workforce that attracts the highest caliber of civil servants committed to achieving the freedom, prosperity, and democratic rule that our Constitution promotes. But current federal hiring practices are broken, insular, and outdated. They no longer focus on merit, practical skill, and dedication to our Constitution. Federal hiring should not be based on impermissible factors, such as one's commitment to illegal racial discrimination under the guise of equity, or one's commitment to the invented concept of gender identity over sex. Inserting such factors into the hiring process subverts the will of the people, puts critical government functions at risk, and risks losing the best qualified candidates. By making our recruitment and hiring processes more efficient and focused on serving the nation, we will ensure that the federal workforce is prepared to help achieve American greatness and attracts the talent necessary to serve our citizens effectively. By significantly improving hiring principles and practices, Americans will receive the federal resources and services they deserve from the highest skilled federal workforce in the world. Make America Great Again. Section 2, Federal Hiring Plan. Within 120 days of the date of this order, the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, in consultation with the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, the Director of the Office of Personnel Management, and the Administrator of the Department of Government Efficiency, shall develop and send to agency heads a federal hiring plan that brings to the federal workforce only highly skilled Americans dedicated to the furtherance of American ideals, values, and interests. Americans dedicated to the furtherance of American ideals, values, and interests. Sounds like the American way to me. This federal hiring plan shall prioritize recruitment of individuals committed to improving the efficiency of the federal government, passionate about the ideals of our American Republic, and committed to upholding the rule of law and the United States Constitution. Prevent the hiring of individuals based on their race, sex, or religion, and prevent the hiring of individuals who are unwilling to defend the Constitution or to faithfully serve the executive branch. That's what I'm saying. What's the point of having these people in office that are supposedly supposed to be protecting our civil rights if they're not doing their job and not enforcing it? Implement, to the greatest extent possible, technical and alternative assessments as required by the Chance to Compete Act of 2024. Decrease government-wide time to hire to under 80 days. Improve communication with candidates to provide greater clarity regarding application status, timeliness, and feedback, including regular updates on the progress of applications and explanations of hiring decisions where appropriate. Integrate modern technology to support the recruitment and selection process, including the use of data analytics to identify trends, gaps, and opportunities. Just make sure opportunities in hiring, as well as leveraging digital platforms to improve candidate engagement, and ensure department and agency leadership on their designees are active participants in implementing the new processes and throughout the full hiring process. So they're probably going to need people like me to get out there and be a leader because, well, they're like, y'all are going to have to follow this stuff. So, and if you don't do it, you need to get somebody in there that will. Ensure the department and the agencies have the leadership qualities. The people who are in leadership roles are going to need to be responsible for making sure that these sort of things are applied. This federal hiring plan shall include specific agencies' plan to improve the allocation of senior executive service positions in the cabinet agencies, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Office of Management and Budget, the Small Business Administration, the Social Security Administration, the National Science Foundation, the Office of Personnel Management, and the General Services Administration to best facilitate democratic leadership as required by law within each agency. The federal hiring plan shall provide specific best practices for the human resources function in each agency, which each agency head shall implement with advice and recommendations as appropriate from DOGE. Accountability and reporting. The Director of the Office of Personnel Management shall establish clear performance metrics to evaluate the success of these reforms and request agency analysis on a regular basis. There sounds like some accountability to me. The Office of Personnel Management shall consult with federal agencies, labor organizations, and other stakeholders to monitor progress and ensure that the reforms are meeting the needs of both candidates and agencies. Section 4, General Provisions. Nothing in this order shall be blah, 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 blah. Most of the rest of this is actually the same stuff. If it's repetitive, I won't repeat it. Let's see. It belongs to the executive branch. Functions of the Board of the Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Let's see. Basically, everybody do your job. Applicable law. The White House, 2025. And that is the reform for the federal hiring process and restoring merit to the government service. Wow. That's pretty good. Ending. Well, this is going to be one of my favorite sections. Ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. People should be ashamed of themselves, seriously. Ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. Executive Order, January 20th, 2025. By the authority vested in me as President of the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, Purpose and Policy. The Biden administration forced illegal and immoral discrimination programs going by the name Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion into virtually all aspects of the federal government in areas ranging from airline safety to the military. This was a concerted effort stemming from President Biden's first day in office when he issued Executive Order 13985, advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Pursuant to Executive Order 13985 and follow-on orders, nearly every federal agency and entity submitted equity action plans to detail the ways that they have furthered DEI's infiltration of the federal government. The public release of these plans demonstrated immense public waste and shameful discrimination. That ends today. Americans deserve a government committed to serving every position with equal dignity and respect, and to expending precious taxpayer resources only on making America great. I agree with that. Section 2, Implementation. The Director of the Office of Management and Budget, assisted by the Attorney General and the Director of the Office of Personnel Management, shall coordinate the termination of all discriminatory programs, including illegal DEI and diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility mandates, policies, programs, preferences, and activities in the federal government under whatever name they appear. To carry out this directive, the Director of OPM, with the assistance of the Attorney General as requested, shall review and revise as appropriate all existing federal employment practices, union contracts, and training policies or programs to comply with this order. Federal employment practices, you hear that, Comcast? That should apply to you too, because you do contracts with the government. You take government grants. So, yeah, I hope you were reading this too. Union contracts and training policies. Comply with this order. Federal employment practices, including federal employee performance reviews, shall reward individual initiative skills, performance, and hard work, and shall not under any circumstances consider DEI or DEIA factors, goals, policies, mandates, or requirements. That's such a win for the American people, because really they should reinstate my job and give me my job back, because that was discriminatory and I shouldn't have ever lost my job in the first place over it. Each agency, department, or commission head, in consultation with the Attorney General, the Director of OMB, and the Director of OPM, as appropriate, shall take the following actions within 60 days of this order. 1. Or I. Terminate, to the maximum extent allowed by law, all DEI, DEIA, and environmental justice offices and positions, including but not limited to Chief Diversity Officer positions. You got to terminate. Wow, the government's saying you got to terminate these positions of diversity officer. So if you got a diversity officer, yeah, say goodbye, diversity. Woo! Yeah, and you know why? Because it's discriminatory and it's racist. I'm not saying goodbye to diversity. I'm saying goodbye to these roles where they do discriminate hatefully and hastefully. Oh, man, but that does make me want to dance, because, yeah, you thought you had some job where you were going to get to just get in there and be hateful to white people and be racist to people because you thought you were going to get even and it was going to make you feel better. No, you're fired. What does it say? Terminate, to the maximum extent allowed by law, all DEI, DEIA, and environmental justice offices and positions, any DEI positions within the government. Oh man, that's great, but not limited to Chief Diversity Officer positions, all equity action plans, equity actions, and I think Comcast was doing an equity action. They were really trying to make an example out of me and have a PR sacrifice, or programs, equity related grants or contracts terminate all grants or contracts, equity-related grants or contracts, and all DEI performance requirements for employees, contractors, or grantees. So I think that means anybody that gets a grant from the government, which would include Comcast. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, baby. Provide the director. That's a pretty big thing. It's saying they got to shut that down. Provide the director of OMB with a list of all agency or department DEI, DIA, or environmental justice positions, committees, programs, services, activities, budgets, and expenditures in existence on November 4th, 2024, and an assessment of whether these positions, committees, programs, services, activities, budgets, and expenditures have been misleadingly relabeled in any attempt to preserve their pre-November 4th, 2024 function. Oh man, that's so wonderful. Federal grantees who receive federal funding to provide or advance DEI, DIA, or environmental justice programs, services, or activities since January 20th, 2021. What does that mean? Oh, provide the director of them with a list of all of these places. Wow. Federal contractors, federal grantees who receive federal funding, that would be Comcast. Why since January 20th of 2021? Why don't you go back to COVID? That's what you need to be doing. That's a little messed up. Direct the deputy agency or department head to assess the operational impact, the number of new DEI hires, and cost of the prior administration's DEI, DEIA, and environmental justice programs and policies, and recommend actions such as congressional notifications under 28 U.S.C. 530D to align agency or department programs, activities, policies, regulations, guidance, employment practices, enforcement activities, contracts, including set-asides, grants, consent orders, and litigation positions with the policy of equal dignity and respect identified in Section 1 of this order. The agency or department head and the director of OMB shall jointly ensure that the deputy agency or department head has the authority and resources needed to carry out this directive. Man, they're really breaking it down. To inform and advise the president so that he may formulate appropriate and effective civil rights policies for the executive branch. The assistant to the president for domestic policy shall convene a monthly meeting attended by the director of OMB, the director of OPM, and each deputy agency or department head too. Hear reports on the prevalence and economic and social costs of DEI, DEIA, and environmental justice in agency or department programs, activities, policies, regulations, guidance, employment practices, enforcement activities, contracts, including set-asides, grants, consent orders, and litigating positions. Discuss any barriers to measures to comply with this order, and monitor and track agency and department progress, and identify potential areas for additional presidential or legislative action to advance the policy of equal dignity and respect. I love equal dignity and respect way more than equity, because that means everybody's going to get treated fairly the same way. Severability, any provisions in this order, application of this provision to any person or circumstance is held to be invalid. The remainder of this order and the application of its provisions to any other persons or circumstances shall not be affected. The White House, 2025. That's pretty good. Ending radical and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. Man. So, which brings us to defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. I mean, this is crazy stuff here, people. By the authority vested in me as President of the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including Section 7301 of Title V, United States Code, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, Purpose. Across the country, ideologues who deny the biological reality of sex have increasingly used legal and other socially coercive means to permit men to self-identify as women and gain access to intimate single-sex spaces and activities designed for women. From women's domestic abuse shelters to women's workplace showers, this is wrong Efforts to eradicate the biological reality of sex fundamentally attack women by depriving them of their dignity, safety, and well-being. The erasure of sex in language and policy has a corrosive impact not just on women, but on the validity of the entire American system. Basing federal policy on truth is critical to scientific inquiry, public safety, morale, and trust in the government itself. I couldn't agree with that more. This unhealthy road is paved by an ongoing and purposeful attack against the ordinary and long-standing use and understanding of biological and scientific terms, replacing the immutable biological reality of sex with an internal, fluid, and subjective sense of a self unmoored from biological facts. Invalidating the true and biological category of woman improperly transforms laws and policies designed to protect sex-based opportunities into laws and policies that undermine them, replacing long-standing cherished legal rights and values with an identity-based, inchoate social concept. Accordingly, my administration will defend women's rights and protect freedom of conscience by using clear and accurate language and policies that recognize women are biologically female and men are biologically male. Section 2, Policy and Definitions. It is the policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female. No other. There are no other sexes acknowledged by the U.S. government. That is fantastic. Like and subscribe to this video or drop a comment below right now if you really love the idea that we only have two sexes in the United States anymore, male, and comment below what the other one is. These sexes are not changeable and are not grounded in the fundamental and incontrovertible reality. Under my direction, the executive branch will enforce all sex protective laws to promote this reality, and the following definitions shall govern all executive interpretation of and application of federal law and administration policy. Sex. Wow, we're actually having the government define these terms for us. That's pretty darn awesome because, well, obviously we couldn't handle it on our own. Sex shall refer to an individual's immutable biological classification as either male or female. Sex is not a synonym for and does not include the concept of gender identity, which, that's fine. We get they're not the same things. But we have to have an understanding that there's only two of them, two sexes. Women or woman and girls or girls shall mean adult and juvenile human females, respectively. Men or man, these terms, boys or boy, shall mean adult and juvenile human males, respectively. Female means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell. Male means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell. That's pretty awesome. And whoa, what a definition. That's pretty major. We actually got a definition on what it is to be a man, a woman, what the definition of sex is, and it came from our government. We have more. Let's keep reading. Gender ideology replaces the biological category of sex with an ever-shifting concept of self-assessed gender identity, permitting the false claim that males can identify as and thus become women, and vice versa, and requiring all institutions of society to regard this false claim as true. Gender ideology includes the idea that there is a vast spectrum of genders that are disconnected from one sex. Gender ideology is internally inconsistent in that it diminishes sex as an identifiable or useful category, but nevertheless maintains that it is possible for a person to be born in the wrong sexed body. Yeah, it's not my opinion that God would do that to us. Gender identity. We got more definitions, people. Reflects a fully internal and subjective sense of self, disconnected from biological reality and sex, and existing on an infinite continuum that does not provide a meaningful basis for identification and cannot be recognized as a replacement for sex. Man, I am so glad that God gave us the wisdom to know how to articulate all of these things properly. Section 3. Recognizing women are biologically distinct from men. Wow, our government's finally going to spell out, hey, yeah, we want equal rights, but men and women ain't equal, and here's why. Recognizing women are biologically distinct from men, within 30 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Health and Human Services shall provide to the U.S. government, external partners, and the public clear guidance, expanding on the sex-based definitions set forth in this order. That's pretty exciting. Each agency and all federal employees shall enforce laws governing sex-based rights, protections, opportunities, and accommodations to protect men and women as biological distinct sexes. Each agency should therefore give the terms sex, male, female, men, women, boys, and girls, the meaning set forth in this Section 2 of this order, when interpreting or applying statutes, regulations, or guidance, and in all other official agency businesses, documents, and communications. You know what this kind of sounds like to me? It sounds to me like the Bible, for real. And I'm loving it. So, when administering or enforcing sex-based distinctions, every agency and all federal employees acting in an official capacity on behalf of their agency shall use the term sex and not gender in all applicable federal policies and documents. Wow. The Secretaries of State and Homeland Security and the Director of Office of Personnel Management shall implement changes to require that government-issued identification documents, including passports, visas, and global entry cards, accurately reflect the holder's sex, as defined under Section 2 of this order, and the Director of the Office of Personnel Management shall ensure that applicable personnel records accurately report federal employees' sex, as defined by Section 2 of this order. Wow. Agencies shall remove all statements, policies, regulations, forms, communications, or other internal or external messages that promote or otherwise inculcate gender ideology, and shall cease issuing such statements, policies, regulations, forms, communications, or other messages. Agency forms that require an individual's sex shall list male or female and shall not request gender identity. Agencies shall take all necessary steps as permitted by law to end the federal funding of gender ideology. Wow. I didn't know we were really funding the gender ideology. That sure is a lot of information, ain't it? So, makes you wonder, well, how did that happen? The prior administration argued that the Supreme Court's decision in Bostick versus Clayton County 2020, which addressed Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, requires gender identity-based access. Hold that thought. Got a message from my wife. Heading back now. Okay, babe, drive safe. I love you so much. Much more today than yesterday. Let's see. Where was I? Oh. Explicitly permitted. Where was I? The Attorney General shall... Oh, wait a minute. We don't want to leave anything out here. Let's just start fresh. The prior administration argued that the Supreme Court's decision in Bostick v. Clayton County 2020, which addressed Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, requires gender identity-based access to single-sex spaces under, for example, Title IX of the Educational Amendments Act. This position is legally untenable and has harmed women. The Attorney General shall therefore immediately issue guidance to agencies to correct the misapplication of the Supreme Court's decision. That's amazing, because I just sent this email out to the EEOC and told them, hey, you guys need to relook at this and do the right thing here as well. Which is really what some of these executive orders are doing here. So, I love it. Let's see. This position is in addition, the Attorney General shall issue guidance and assist agencies in protecting sex-based distinctions which are explicitly permitted under constitutional and statutory precedent. Let's see. Federal funds shall not be used to promote gender ideology. Each agency shall assess grant conditions and grantee preferences and ensure grant funds do not promote gender ideology. Privacy in intimate spaces. The Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security shall ensure that males are not detained in women's prisons or housed in women's detention centers, including through amendment as necessary of Part 11541 of Title 28, Code of Federal Regulations and Interpretation Guidance regarding the Americans with Disabilities Act. The Secretary of Housing and Urban Development shall prepare and submit for notice and comment rulemaking a policy to rescind the final rule entitled Equal Access in accordance with an individual's gender identity in community planning and development programs. Wow. That's kind of a lot to rescind, but I'm with you. As of September 21st, 2016, 81 FR 64763, and shall submit for public comment a policy protecting women seeking single-sex rape shelters. Wow. What do you guys think about all that? Agencies shall effectuate this policy by taking appropriate action to ensure that intimate spaces designed for women, girls, or females, or for men, boys, or males, are designed by sex and not identity. I love how we're including everybody now. That's a more inclusive. That's how you be more inclusive. You set policies that apply to women, but also apply to men. There you go. That's how you do that, basically. Section 5, protecting rights. The Attorney General shall issue guidance to ensure the freedom to express the binary nature of sex and the right to single-sex spaces in workplaces and federally funded entities covered by the Civil Rights Acts of 1964. In accordance with that guidance, the Attorney General, the Secretary of Labor, the General Counsel, and Chair of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and the EEOC, and each other agency head with enforcement responsibilities under the Civil Rights Act shall prioritize investigations and litigation to enforce the rights and freedoms identified. It sounds like he's telling the EEOC and the Attorney General and the Secretary of Labor that they had better. Wow, let's read that again. Section 5, protecting rights. The Attorney General shall issue guidance to ensure the freedom to express the binary nature of sex and the right to single-sex spaces in the workplaces and federally funded entities covered by the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So he's recalling the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and saying, in accordance with that guidance, the Attorney General, the Secretary of Labor, the General Counsel, and Chair of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and each other agency head with enforcement responsibilities under the Civil Rights Act shall prioritize investigations and litigation to enforce the rights and freedoms identified, which are the rights and freedoms identified in the Civil Rights Acts of 1964. And he's told the head of these departments to see to it that they prioritize these investigations. So that might include my case, folks. I'm just telling you, that might include my case. Because I've been a pretty squealy, greasy wheel here lately. Bill text. Section 6, bill text. Within 30 days of the date of this order, the Assistant to the President for Legislative Affairs shall present to the President proposed bill text to codify the definitions in this order. Section 7, agency implementation and reporting. Within 120 days of the date of this order, each agency head shall submit an update on implementation of this order to the President through the Director of the Office of Management and Budget. That update shall address. So all the heads of those departments need to write this up, and they're going to need to report back to the President about what they found. Changes to agency documents, including regulations, guidance forms, and communications made to comply with this order. Agency imposed requirements on federally funded entities, including contractors, to achieve this policy of this order. The requirements of this order supersede conflicting provisions in any previous executive orders or presidential memoranda, including but not limited to Executive Orders 13988 of January 20th, 2021, 14004 of January 25th, 2021, 14020 and 14021 of March 8th, 2021, and 14075 of June 15th, 2022. These executive orders are hereby rescinded, and the White House Gender Policy Council established by Executive Order 14020 is dissolved. Wow. Each agency head shall promptly rescind all guidance documents inconsistent with the requirements of this order and the Attorney General's guidelines issued pursuant to this order or rescind such parts of such documents that are inconsistent in such manner. Such documents include, but are not limited to. I really hope they make these people pay. I know that Comcast was trying to make a lesson out of me, but I hope that on behalf of the American people, we can make an example out of them. Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Trump. That's justice. The American way is holding people accountable. If you're going to mess up, take your licks, move on. Each agency had not limited to. Oh, she messaged me. You could have. What you doing messaging me? Oh. Hold on. Not really able to. I kind of can. Got something on X popping up, coming up here. We're right in the middle of this one. Let's see. Post. Come on, come on, come on. Pepe Deluxe Trump making good on his promises. Whoa. Headed to the border. This is Texas. Oh, hell yes. Yeah. Oh, oh, whoa. Damn. That is what I'm talking about, people. Yeah. That is what I'm talking about. Big thumbs up to my Aunt Bonnie. Oh, she's sending me some stuff. Boy, man. That's what I'm talking about. We're going through these executive orders right now. We're seeing it happen, people. This is what it's all about. Man, Trump admin shut down the White House Spanish language page and social media. Wow, that's funny. That's the page I'm on. I'm hoping that I can at least finish reading the executive orders. They are shutting shit down. Y'all want to see what a real shutdown looks like? It's the one with full transparency. Wow. Thanks, Aunt Bonnie. I'm going to have a hard time. What is going on here? Empty chairs. Empty stethoscopes. What's going on there? You're going to replace all that. Alone again, naturally. Oh, you're at the doctor's office. Ha ha. Hey, and you're tuned in on executive orders while you're at the doctor's office? How about that? Well, stay listening, sister, because we're covering some scoops. Thanks. Send me all that info. Man, that's awesome. I saw the tanks rolling in. They are handling some business now, folks. Oh, man. I hope I can. Hopefully, are we back up? There we are. All right, let's get back into this. Bill text within 30 days of the date of this order. The assistant to the president for legislative affairs shall present to the president proposed bill text to codify the definitions in this order. Agency implementation and reporting. Within 120 days of the date of this order, each agency shall submit an order implementation. You're going to have to tell everybody, hey, here's the changes that we've made to the agency documents, regulations, guidance, forms, communications made to comply with this order. Agency imposed requirements on federally funded entities, including contractors, to achieve the policy of this order. The requirements, I think we read that, didn't we? No, we'll read it again, but they're reiterating it for a reason. Changes, let's see. Agency imposed requirements on federally funded entities, including contractors, to achieve this policy of this order. The requirements of this order supersede conflicting provisions in any previous executive orders or presidential memoranda. All the memorandums, remember, that they came out with, they're all no good anymore. None of them. Executive orders 13988 of January 20th, 2021. 14004 of January 25th, 2021. 14020 and 14021 of March 8th, 2021, and 14075 of June 15th, 2022. These executive orders are hereby rescinded, and the White House Gender Policy Council, established by Executive Order 14020, is dissolved. Oh, sorry, we did read that, and I read it again. Sorry, I backed up. So here's what the documents that they need to update. The White House Toolkit on Transgender Equality, the Department of Education's guidance documents, including 2024 Title IX regulations, pointers for implementation, July of 2024, U.S. Department of Education Toolkit, creating inclusive and non-discriminatory school environments for LGBTQI plus students, U.S. Department of Education supporting LGBTQI plus youth and families in school, June 21, 2023. Departamento de Educaciono de EE.UU. Here's some stuff in Spanish. Supporting intersex students. Wow. Oh, I guess I didn't read this part. We need to say this. Each agency head shall promptly rescind all guidance documents inconsistent with the requirements of this order or the Attorney General's guidance issued pursuant to this order, or rescind such parts of such documents that are inconsistent in such manner. Such documents include, but are not limited to, these things. So these all have to be taken back and taken away, rescinded, gotten rid of. Supporting intersex students, a resource for students, families, and educators, October 2021. Supporting transgender youth in school, June 2021. All of this should be red flags to everybody. Letter to educators on Title IX's 49th anniversary of June 23rd, 2021. You got to take all this stuff out of there. Confronting anti-LGBTQI plus harassment in schools, a resource for students and families, June 2021. Enforcement of Title IX on the Education Amendments of 1972 with respect to discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in light of Bostick versus Clayton County, June 22nd, 2021. All of these materials got to be pulled from all these agencies and guidance and everything. Education in a pandemic. The disparate impacts of COVID-19 on America's students, June 9th, 2021. Back to school message for transgender students from the U.S. Departments of Justice, Education, and HHS, August 17, 2021. The Attorney General's memorandum on March 26, 2021, entitled Application of Bostick versus Clayton County to Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972. And the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's Enforcement Guidance on Harassment in the Workplace, April 29, 2024. Section 8, General Provisions. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority of this government, these offices, the same offices, all these entities. Signed the White House. Wow, that is quite a section. Wow, quite a section on defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. Amen and glory be to God. I mean, wow, that is something. And yeah, did you guys see the tanks? We're going to be pulling that stuff up before too long. Let me see if there's one more on here. Who is that?
Me.
Who's me? Okay, I got one section left. Hold on. Don't talk. Don't come in here. Get out of here. Leave. Bye. I'll talk to you in a minute. Love you. Thank you. Establishing and implementing. Let's go here to the final little section. We're probably going to have to kick over tomorrow or later tonight to cover more of these executive orders. You can see all these. We have multiple pages. It looked like we had 220 of these executive orders, and we've just covered maybe 10 of them. So, establishing and implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency, Executive Order, January 20, 2025. By the authority vested in me as President of the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, purpose. This executive order establishes the Department of Government Efficiency to implement the President's DOGE agenda by modernizing federal technology and software to maximize governmental efficiency and productivity. Section 2, definitions as used in this order. Agency has the meaning given to it in Section 551 of Title V, United States Code, except that such terms do not include the executive office of the President or any components thereof. Agency head means the highest ranking official of an agency, such as the Secretary, Administrator, Chairman, or Director, unless otherwise specified in this order. DOGE structure, reorganization, and renaming of the United States Digital Service. The United States Digital Service is hereby publicly renamed as the United States DOGE Service and shall be established in the Executive Office of the President. Wow. Establishment of a temporary organization. There shall be a USDS administrator established in the Executive Office of the President who shall report to the White House Chief of Staff. There is further established within the USDS, in accordance with Section 3161 of Title V, United States Code, a temporary organization known as the U.S. DOGE Service Temporary Organization. The U.S. DOGE Service Temporary Organization shall be headed by the USDS Administrator and shall be dedicated to advancing the President's 18-month DOGE agenda. The U.S. DOGE Service Temporary Organization shall terminate on July 4, 2026. Great Day, Independence Day. The termination of the U.S. DOGE Service Temporary Organization shall not be interpreted to imply the termination, attenuation, or amendment of any other authority or provision of this order. DOGE teams. I want to be on a DOGE team, man. In consultation with USDS, each agency head shall establish within their respective agencies a Doge team of at least 4 employees. What is that?
I hit something with my foot.
Okay. Doge teams in consultation with USDS, each agency head shall establish within their respective agencies a Doge team of at least 4 employees, which may include special government employees hired to or assigned within 30 days of the date of this order. Agency heads shall select the Doge team members in consultation with the USDS administrator. Each Doge team will typically include 1 Doge team lead, 1 engineer, 1 human resources specialist, and 1 attorney. Agency heads shall ensure that Doge team leads coordinate their work with the USDS and advise their respective agency heads on implementing the President's Doge agenda. Well, isn't that special? Modernizing federal technology and software to maximize efficiency and productivity, Section 4. The USDS administrator shall commence a software modernization initiative to improve the quality and efficiency of government-wide software, network infrastructure, and information technology IT systems. Among other things, the USDS administrator shall work with the agency heads to promote interoperability between agency networks and systems, ensure data integrity, and facilitate responsible data collection and synchronization. Agency heads shall take all necessary steps in coordination with the USDS administrator and to the maximum extent consistent with law to ensure USDS has full and prompt access to all unclassified agency records, software systems, and IT systems. Wow. Full and prompt access to all unclassified agency records, software systems, and IT systems. USDS shall adhere to rigorous data protection standards. The executive order displaces all prior executive orders and regulations insofar as they are subject to direct presidential amendment that might serve as a barrier to providing USDS access to agency records and systems as described above. Sincerely, basically, the White House, January 20th, 2025. That is establishing and implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency. Has a little bit of backlog, and that is going to be, let's just go back and count these. That is, oh, that had the nominations, which was probably, I don't know if that was an executive order or not. Let's just take a look. That was just a release, so that's not an executive order. I don't know which of these are executive orders or not. Oh yeah, by executive order. Yeah, that pretty much was. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's basically the first 10, and we got 220 to cover. So we got some serious ground to cover, folks. But I wanted to go over some of those, have a live discussion, see what's going on with that. My wife just got back from the grocery store, so I'm going to go help undo groceries. Let's reconvene back here at like 5 o'clock to see what's going on. Maybe 5 o'clock, maybe later o'clock. I don't know. Maybe earlier o'clock. I don't know. Let me know what you, and let's, give all the glory to God, because trying to make America great again. Not just America, but the whole world. Anybody else got anything to add there? I don't. So I'm ending the stream. Goodbye.